Let's explore what to do when we feel far too excited to meditate. This evening's lesson is drawn from a good-hearted question found on Reddit. Too excited to meditate fully. The individual wrote, I'm having a rough time staying focused while meditating lately, but for a positive reason. I've only started meditating in January, but I've been doing a lot of other things related to self-improvement along the way. At this point in the year, I, as well as others, are now seeing the physical manifestations of that work. And I'm just way too excited and proud of myself to stay focused during meditation. It is as if I've been drinking 3 cups of coffee before. Any tips to combat this? My current method is doing a deep breath in and out and counting between breaths. I've also been labeling my distracting thoughts and pushing through, but this method seems to not be as effective anymore. All right, so we'll start with broad brushstrokes. The confusion you're experiencing is not uncommon, and it's not your fault. It really is a commentary on the authors you've been reading or the teachers you've been working with. So, I'm going to tell you something that might seem surprising, but focus is not mindfulness. Let's explore this from the perspective of neuroscience. The part of the brain we use to actively concentrate and actively analyze is radically different from the part of the central nervous system that we use for the mindfulness and meditation that the Buddha described as the 7th and 8th folds of the Buddha's Eightfold Path. Jay, thank you very much. Allow me to illustrate further. When we practice analysis or active concentration, we utilize structures of our brain such as the medial prefrontal cortex and the dorsolateral prefrontal cortex. In the short term, when we rely on them, fMRI studies, or functional magnetic resonance imaging studies, show that what lights up is our amygdala, this region here, which functions as the seat of aggression and anxiety, located in the metaphoric dungeon of our limbic system. In the long term, we can exhaust our prefrontal cortex and present with symptoms that look a whole lot like depression. Which part of the brain do we utilize to practice mindfulness? We utilize our sympathetic nervous system, which is ensconced within the thoracic or ribcage region of our spinal cord. No, it has not evolved to support either active concentration or mind blanking. Instead, it has evolved to simply notice, and to do so vulnerably, passively, viscerally, and randomly. If it sounds like you're being asked to relinquish control, it's because you are. Let's explore the yin and yang of it all, shall we? Whether we are reading the 81 poems of the Tao Te Ching, or we are reading the most ancient Buddhist texts that speak not only of the Buddha, Gautama, but of his wicked cousin Devadatta, we learned that the wicked cousin thought it was splendid to be rigid, fearful, superstitious, controlling, elitist, cryptic, competitive, and cruel. The problem is the more rigid and controlling we are, the more we're going to try to control our experience, the more we're going to try to manipulate our body and our brain. However, when we walk in the Buddha's footsteps and we choose to be flexible, loving, rational, laid back, egalitarian, lucid, cooperative, and kind, especially flexible and laid back, we're going to be a lot more comfortable with the idea that we notice things vulnerably, passively, viscerally, and randomly. So let's return to the idea of the sympathetic nervous system ensconced within the thoracic region of your spinal cord. This bad boy has evolved to notice sights, sounds, sensations, flavors, scents, and the like. To notice emotions, intentions, thoughts, memories, and imaginings. To notice all manner of things, from the external to the internal, from the physical to the mental, from the pleasurable to the painful, from the interesting to the boring, from the glorious to the grotesque. This invites the question, what are we to do with that which we notice? And the answer is meditation. You see, every time we exhale, whether we know it or not, we are accessing our parasympathetic nervous system, the neighbor of our sympathetic nervous system. Yes, this parasympathetic nervous system is found in both the lower lumbar region of the spinal cord, as well as the tippy top of the cervical region that some people call the brainstem or the reticular activation region. Thus, our parasympathetic nervous system during each exhalation has evolved to both physically relax as well as mentally release. So upon the Buddha's path, upon the Buddha's eightfold path, our job is not to indulge our controlling tendencies and pin our mind like a butterfly to a board. Instead, we are to just practice a metaphoric version of, it's kind of like, are we going to be a taxidermist or a bird watcher? Are we going to catch and kill and stuff a bird? Or are we going to just watch its flight and enjoy our brief experience of it? There have been many people meditating and teaching meditating for many millennia. The Buddha is probably the most famous of all the meditation teachers. Possibly because his method was different. Now, Sturgeon's Law reminds us that 90% of everything sucks, but not in the fun, tingly way. So it should come as little surprise that 90% of meditation teachers think being rigid, fearful, controlling, elitist, cryptic, competitive, and cruel is Jim Dandy. But you're not interested in the 90%. You want the 10%. With the courage and the insight to advise you to traverse a path of being flexible, loving, laid back, egalitarian, lucid, cooperative, and kind. Agitation is nothing new. We read about it in the Satipatthana Sutta. Now, there will be times when you feel far too agitated to sit. That's perfectly okay. And before I share with you Buddhist alternatives to that, allow me to remind you that trying to control our breath in an effort to control our experience of agitation is just more concentrating. Trying to count is just more concentrating. And it's just another act of indulging our controlling tendencies. I therefore do not recommend it. Controlling tendencies do not work well. Nationally, they look like fascism. Internationally, they look like jingoism. And they always result in tears, whether on the international scope, the national scope, or the personal scope. The only thing worse than being petulant and controlling is to be with someone else who is petulant and controlling. So most of us have turned to meditation because we want to become the person that our dog already thinks we are. So part of that is not indulging our controlling tendencies and our adolescent power fantasies of controlling our body and our brain with the hopes of someday controlling the external world around us. I've seen people who devoted their lives to that, and they are not happy. They are not fulfilled. So what was Buddha's solution to physical agitation? Brisk walking meditation. And again, 90% of the people who teach walking meditation teach slow motion, teeny tiny mincing steps. I've experimented with that, and I've hung out with people who did it that way, and they did not feel free. They did not feel carefree. They did not feel joyous. They felt compressed, and rightly so. Walk with abandon, taking loping strides, swinging your arms by your side. If you're deeply, deeply agitated, then just walk around your block. That way you won't have to worry about crossing the street safely. So consider, if you will, the idea that our brain is a lot like Urkel. Let's see here. I want to hit this button. Most of the time, our brain is in passive opposition to our sympathetic and parasympathetic nervous systems, not because it believes in a real or imagined sense of self, not because it has a dull, dark, ulterior motive, just because it's kind of like a puppy dog. But this puppy dog can take instruction. If during your inhalation, thank you, Kevin, if during your inhalation you silently and mentally recite the demonstrative pronoun this, your brain will cooperate more enthusiastically with your sympathetic nervous system, and perceptive mindfulness will be easy. If during your exhalation while walking briskly around your block, you silently and mentally recite the one-syllable verb ease, you will find that your brain is in greater harmony with the wiring of your parasympathetic nervous system. And you'll find that as you exhale, you perform the mental release of meditation. I know it sounds bizarro, so don't believe me. Experiment with this by implementing these instructions. Play with these instructions. Start off maybe for just 10 or 20 minutes every 12 hours or so. Listen to your body. In time, you can progress to a set of 20 or 40 or 60 minutes of walking meditation, once again, every 12 hours or so. On the days when you feel less agitated, you could replace one of those sessions with sitting meditation. Either way, both are beneficial. The Buddha loved sitting meditation, but he also loved walking meditation. This is a useful, easy path. Just as a man on a surfboard does not try to control the ocean, but merely dance upon its waves, similarly, you and I are not saddled with the burden of trying to control our bodies or minds. Instead, we just surf the state du jour. When our body is sedate, we can sit. When our body is agitated, we can walk. Whether sitting or walking, standing or lying down, if we harmonize our brain's recitations with our body's inhalations and exhalations, we will master the Buddha's path of mindfulness and meditation. I do look forward to practicing with you in great detail after approximately 30 seconds of housekeeping. This is Lama Jigme Gyatso of the Buddha Joy Meditation School. For more than 30 years, I spent about 8 hours a day, almost every day, studying, practicing, mastering, and reverse engineering the teachings and techniques of each sect of Buddhism so that you would not have to. Welcome, my friends, to Meditate Like a Jedi, which is made possible due to the generosity of viewers just like you. We come now to the latest iteration of easy meditation. So we're going to play with a spiritual workout with 2 warm-ups and a main practice. And we can hopefully we'll practice the entirety of the spiritual workout 2 or 3 times. And then perhaps at the end we'll end with the appendix. Let us begin by bringing the 4 bases of mindfulness into the path of love, bliss, and letting go. Although many Tibetan teachers would teach that love and letting go and bliss and letting go are 2 separate practices, the great Dzogchen Trul Rinpoche of Tibet taught that when we practice conventional and ultimate bodhicittas, we spontaneously experience both tantric stages. So we begin with conventional bodhicittas, second fold of the Buddha's Eightfold Path. Please chant with me. Rather than indulge or controlling tendencies with the follies of active visualization, emotion, magic, and belief, we could passively recite these kind words in harmony with our breathing and allow our subconscious to do the heavy lifting. Let us sidestep the rigidity that confuses metaphors as statements literal, and instead relax into the flexibility that savors and chants, presenting metaphors as similes. Let us review the meaning of the most famous mantra in Tibet. Om, I invoke the wish of ending money, jewel of love, and the purifying payme lotus of letting go, supplicating with whom may love and letting go be mastered by all. And now we begin, now that we've completed our warm-up to the warm-up, we can dig into the main course, or the first preparatory practice of love. May all minds of all beings now be as peacefully enlightened as the mind of a real or imagined Buddha symbolized by a tikle one syllable seed or bija mantra. Allow me to share with you the secret of the metaphoric philosopher's stone that transforms the worthless lead of mindless mantra recitation into the useful gold of mantra meditation. During our inhalation, we could silently, mentally, and passively recite the 6-syllable italic synopsis of all this stuff right here. And during our exhalation, we can physically relax as best we can while striving to chant this 6-syllable mantra 6 times per breath. I'm sorry, 4 times per breath. So we're going to count the 4 breaths upon the 3 creases and tip of our left little finger, advancing the tip of our left thumb during each inhalation. Om mani padme hum mani. Oh, let's try this again. Om mani padme hum. Om mani padme hum. Om mani padme hum. Om mani padme hum. Second breath. Om mani padme hum. Om mani padme hum. Om mani padme hum. Om mani padme hum. A third breath. Om mani padme hum. Om mani padme hum. Om mani padme hum. Om mani padme hum. Fourth breath. Om mani padme hum. Om mani padme hum. Om mani padme hum. Om mani padme hum. So upon our left hand, we've begun counting 16 rounds. We've counted our first 4 rounds, and then we'll count our second 4 rounds, and our third 4 rounds, and our fourth 4 rounds, for a total of 16 rounds, and that's lovely. On our right hand, we can count sets of 16. And so right now, we are working on our first set of 16. Now, it's more ergonomically sound if you rest your hands in your lap. Please chant with me. Now, by the way, once you've grown comfortable with this text, there may be times when you feel like practicing it silently, and that's where this 3-syllable exercise comes in handy. And when you feel like practicing this during walking meditation, you could always play with the 1-syllable version. All these are electives, and none of this is mandatory. Please chant with me. May all relationships or speech of all beings now be as joyfully loving as a real or imagined Buddhist communication symbolized by the 6-syllable mantra. So we are now going to count our next 4 breaths, this time upon our left ring finger. Om mani padme hum. Om mani padme hum. Om mani padme hum. Om mani padme hum. Oops, got a little confused with my counting. Sorry about that. Om mani padme hum. 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 Om mani padme May all bodies or forms of all beings now enjoy the beautiful, healthy, and Buddhist statuary, depicting the blissful body of a real or imagined Devi or Yadama and archetype of enlightenment suggestion raising. Let us now prepare to count the next 4 breaths upon our left middle finger. Om Mani Padme Hum. 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 May all circumstances or lots of all beings now have the good fortune or boon, as a Buddha's real or imagined paradise, pure land or Vanti. Come, let us count our next 4 breaths upon our left index finger. Om Mani Padme Hum. 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 We now come to ultimate bodhicitta, also known as the first fold of the Buddha's path or right view, where we bring the 4 bases of mindfulness into the figurative path of rainbow yoga. All visible circumstances or lots could be as impermanent and interdependent, as if they could blissfully melt into rainbow light that could delightfully absorb into this body or form. Notice how the verb melting functions as a metaphor of impermanence, while the verb absorption functions as a metaphor of the verb. How the verb absorption functions as a metaphor of interdependence. So we're going to take all these words and squeeze them down into just 6 syllables. The first half we're going to recite during our inhalation. The second half we're going to recite during our exhalation. So, quick review. We've already completed one set of 16 rounds on our left hand. So now on our right hand, we're going to advance our right thumb up our right little finger to its second set of creases. This is reminding us we're working on our second set of exercises now, our second collection of 16 breaths. Beginning again with our left little finger. Let's chant. All sensual bodies or forms could be as impermanent and interdependent as if they could blissfully melt into rainbow light that could delightfully absorb into this communication or speech. Now let us count 4 breaths upon our left ring finger. All resounding interpersonal speech could be as impermanent and interdependent as if it could blissfully melt into rainbow light that could delightfully absorb into this mind. Come, let us count the next 4 rounds of breath upon our left middle finger. So allow me to elucidate the meaning of this exercise a tiny bit. Here we're playing with the idea that although our circumstances are seen, they can feel less than graspable. And although our bodies are felt, they too could feel less than graspable. And likewise, our relationships, although resounding, could feel less than graspable. Together, all lucid minds could be as impermanent and interdependent as if they could blissfully melt into rainbow light that could delightfully absorb into a vast empty void. Like the illusion of the infinite azure sky on a bright and beautiful cloudless morn, which, although tantalizing to the eye, could be non-graspable to the hand. Now we're going to explore how, although the mind can clearly perceive, emote, intend, reason, recall, and imagine, it still could feel less than graspable. Come, let us count the remaining 4 rounds of this set upon our left index finger. We are now going to practice bringing whatever we spontaneously notice into the path of awareness and letting go, just like we explored during class. I should say during the opening portion of class. But allow me to remind you, allow me to redirect your attention to, once again, to Bengali crease counting. On our right hand, we're going to advance our right thumb up to the third set of creases on our right little finger. This is the first of 14 sets of 16 rounds that we're going to count upon the remaining creases and tips of our right hand. All the while doing our left hand, we're going to be counting 16 rounds. So these are rounds and these are sets. Left rounds, right sets. Not dissimilar from working out. And oh yeah, definitely, my hands are going to be in my lap for the remainder of this evening's practice. While silently and mentally reciting the demonstrative pronoun this during our inhalation, we can kick back and watch the music antics of mind as it perceives, emotes, intends, reasons, recalls, and imagines. As we exhale, we can silently and mentally recite the one-syllable verb ease as we relax into mind's non-graspable nature. Although enlightenment could be as simple as mastering the Buddha's Eightfold Path, allow me to remind you that where girls and boys are excited to earn labels, the women and men concern themselves not with such things. In other words, the labels others or ourselves adhere to ourselves are but greasy kid stuff. The late Dilgo Khyentse Rinpoche, the former head of the Nyingma order of Tibetan Buddhism, said that when it comes to childish enthusiasm for labeling, consider children playing at the beach with sandcastles. They might take inordinate pride over their own sandcastles, and they might lose their minds completely if a neighboring child knocks over their sandcastle. But when it gets dark and they get hungry, they will forget their sandcastles and go home to mom and dad and dinner. Similarly, when we have truly mastered the Eightfold Path, we will no longer be terribly concerned about the labels we use to describe ourselves. That's not because of belief. We just grown weary of it. It's no longer important to us. We have outgrown it. Like a child who has outgrown his first pair of shoes. Oh, my fellow geeks, who can forget the life of Brian? When the crowd chased after Brian, screaming, "He is the Messiah," to which Brian responded, "I'm not the Messiah. To which the crowd retorted, only the Messiah would deny he's the Messiah. Labels are just as silly, are they not? In the contemporary practice of Dzogchen, we talk about, in the contemporary practice of Mahamudra, we talk about Sutra Mahamudra on one hand. That's what we're doing right now. And then we talk about Tantra Mahamudra or Bindu Mahamudra on the other hand. So the essence of Bindu Mahamudra and Tantra Mahamudra, according to the great Za Patrul Rinpoche, is simply what we just practiced with love and letting go, and then rainbow yoga. And now we're resting in Dzogchen or Trekcho or Mahasandhi or Ati Yoga, whichever synonym tickles your fancy. Let's return now to the second fold of the Eightfold Path, loving kindness's right aspiration. Together. Since we are not alone in our mental frustrations, we could also long that others' mental needs also be met. Since we are not alone in our interpersonal frustrations, we could also long that others' interpersonal needs also be met. Since we are not alone in our physical frustrations, we could also long that others' physical needs also be met. Since we are not alone in our circumstantial frustrations, we could also long that other circumstantial needs also be met. Let us bring the four bases of mindfulness into the path of impermanence and not self. Observing the coming and going of appearing circumstantial phenomena, help us to see that ever-changing one and all, there is nothing permanent to grasp. Observing the coming and going of sensual physical phenomena, help us to feel that ever-changing one and all, there is nothing permanent to grasp. Observing the coming and going of resounding interpersonal phenomena, helps us to hear that ever-changing one and all, there is nothing permanent to grasp. Observing the coming and going of lucid mental phenomena, helps us to clearly perceive that ever-changing one and all, there is nothing permanent to grasp. For the next 16 sets of, for the next 14 sets of 16 rounds, let us bring whatever we spontaneously notice into the path of awareness and letting go. The seventh and eighth folds of the Buddha's Eightfold Path. Please chant with me. In our compassion may we long to free all beings from the toxic tyranny of ever. Hating, craving, and clinging, metaphorically known as the three mental poisons. In our pragmatism may all liberation of all others be fueled by our reliance on the Buddha's example, instructions, and students, described by the metaphor of the three wish-fulfilling jewels. So if you want, you can join me in geriatric step-back squat thrusts, but I assure you, it's purely optional. May we free all through the three jewels. 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 Whew. May all minds clear yet impermanent be as enlightened as a Buddha's mind. May all relationships resounding yet impermanent be as loving as a Buddha's speech. May all bodies sensual yet impermanent be as beautifully healthy as a real or imagined deva's form. May all circumstances appearing yet impermanent be as safe and abundant as a real or imagined Devi's land. If you feel that I have earned it, you could give this live stream a thumbs up. You could even help support this channel. In approximately 10.5 hours, I would very much like to return to lead tomorrow's early meditation class and group practice. And if you are as geeky as me, may the Force be with you always.